The poor caretaker. I fear his long-standing duties here have affected him.
And welcome back to more Darkest Dungeon, the Darkest Devatron Estate. Episode 3, Week 2, getting underway. And upon returning to the hamlet, we find the tavern and the abbey are now available. So let's check them out and see what they're all about.
Fresh kegs, cards, and curtained rooms promise solace to the weary and broken alike.
Okay, so the tavern is a stress relief venue, and it offers 3 options: the bar, the gambling hall, and the brothel. And from top to bottom, they get more expensive as you go, but the more you spend, the more stress you get relieved. And like all buildings here, you can see there is an upgrade interface. Because I don't use the stress relief venues, either the tavern or the abbey, that much, I don't end up ever upgrading them.
The cobwebs have been dusted, the pews set straight. The abbey calls to the faithful.
All right, and the abbey likewise is a stress relief facility offering meditation in the cloister, prayer in the transept, or flagellation in the penance hall. And like the tavern, it gets more expensive from top to bottom. And like the tavern, you get more stress relief from top to bottom. And also like the tavern, you can upgrade it, but like I said, with the tavern, because I don't use these facilities that much, I don't end up upgrading them. Okay, and on to the stagecoach to check our new recruits for the week. And we get a great roll here, a nice mix. I will take and use all of these, and most important, a second Vestal. You can just never have enough Vestals. And this one comes with quick reflexes, which is absolutely amazing. +2 speed. Your healers can never be fast enough, so she's a keeper, and we're taking her right away.
A sister of battle, pious and unrelenting.
Okay, and up next we have a Hellion named Croc. Interesting name. Not very good quirks. Wheeled Explorer's so-so. Fear of Eldritch is actually pretty bad. And then she has 2 skills, which I always use on a Hellion, and then 2 really important ones, which she doesn't have, but we'll have to get those later.
Barbaric rage and unrelenting savagery make for a powerful ally.
Okay, and next we have Muleace, the leper. I don't use lepers a whole lot, nor do I use Hellions a whole lot, but I need one of each of those for my roster. Hot to trot on a leper is pretty badass, I gotta say. Some pretty lame negative quirks, but skill-wise, almost perfect. Only one that I really want to buy. And even his camping skills are just about exactly what we want.
This man understands that adversity and existence are one and the same.
And last, we have Roque, the Jester. Getting a Jester in week 2 is insane. Having them come with Photomania is just like God roll. Now, he doesn't come with Inspiring Tune, which is the stress heal, so that's really lame. But he does have the Battle Ballad and Harvest, which is a double hit bleed. This is a great roll, and I couldn't be happier.
He will be laughing still at the end.
Now, as for upgrading the stagecoach, we need to do it, but we don't have enough deeds. But we're going to be able to convert some of our crests into deeds in order to get the next upgrade. Going hero barracks here would be fine to increase your roster size, but notice we're 8 out of 13, so we can take 5 more before we need to increase that. So instead, I opt to go for Stagecoach Network to get more of a selection next week, because we'll be able to take all 5 next week. You know, we have 5 more slots until our roster is full. You could do either one here, but basically, at all costs, getting this stagecoach as upgraded as you can right away is really the key to victory in the early game, especially on the harder difficulties.
Great heroes can be found even here, in the mud and rain.
Okay, and on to the Nomad Wagon. For the most part, I never really intend to buy anything. It's just too expensive, at least until you have lots of gold and it's upgraded and things are cheaper, etc. But there are a couple of trinkets out there that are kind of like must-buys, you know? If they show up, and you don't have them already in your collection, you really do need to buy them. So even though 99 times out of 100 I never buy anything, you'll always see me check it just to make sure. Okay, so here we are in the quest selection interface part of the map, and notice a couple things. The farmstead has a quest available down in the lower left. Now we won't be going there for a while, but just notice that it is opened, whereas the courtyard, Warrens, Cove, and Weald are all still locked. And in the ruins, remember last time we had 1 short quest available. Now we have 4 quests, 3 of which are mediums. We could already go in at this point and do a medium length quest, which means we would be given some firewood and we could camp in the middle of it and use camping skills, etc., etc. So what I'm doing here, and again, I'm being a little bit slow and deliberate because this is our first few weeks into the game, and I want you to get familiar with the process. I'm basically clearing out the heroes that were in the party for the last quest. Notice the 4 boxes at the bottom are now empty. I moved out those 4 heroes, and I'm deciding which heroes I want to take on the next mission, and I'm also deciding which quests I'm going to take, and that is decided by a lot of factors, but at this point I'm mostly thinking what's the reward. We only have a couple to choose from. They're all in the ruins, which means a lot of unholy enemies, so I won't be doing very good with bleed attacks, but blight attacks or anything that can just hit really hard would be great. And of course, you always want to have a healer and a stress healer. Again, we don't have a stress healer just yet, or rather we do, but they don't have the skills necessary to stress heal because they didn't come with them unlocked. But nonetheless, I decided to go with our 4 new characters, Leper, Hellion, Jester, and Vestal, and they have a little nickname, which is called the Ghostbusters. And I have no idea why it's called the Ghostbusters, but that's what this composition is called, and that's what we're going with. Okay, and before we depart on our next quest, I go ahead and stop by our newly opened abbey and commit a couple heroes to stress relief. I'm going to use flagellation on our plague doctor. Remember, she got hit pretty hard. She's at 51. And some meditation for our first Vestal there. She doesn't really need it so much. She's not that high on stress, but I'd like to have her absolutely stress-free and ready to go for the next mission. And I know at the beginning of this episode I said, I don't use these venues that much, but that doesn't mean that I never use them. All I really mean to say is that I don't think it's a very good use of heirlooms to upgrade them when you don't use them that often. But I do use them, like here. Okay, last but not least, equipping trinkets before we go. Now, we only have 2 at this point in our inventory, and one is Jester only, his lucky dice. But I equip that on him. That gives him a bonus to accuracy and dodge, both of which are important. And I also give him the other one we got, which gives a bonus to max health. Jesters are a little fragile, kind of a low health pool, at the cost of 1 speed. So not a great trinket, but since we have them, we might as well use them.
Pace out the halls of your lineage once familiar, now foreign.
Okay, so you'll notice I chose the one short quest available as opposed to one of the 3 medium-length ones. A couple reasons. I didn't think that anybody I had could really do a medium. It would be too hard. Second, these new heroes fresh off the coach are level 0. Notice they all have 2 bars of stress just starting out the quest. That's because they're technically too low for even a level 1 dungeon, so they're very stressed out about doing this. And second, I didn't want to get too much experience on the higher level guys and get too far ahead of the newbies. Okay, and there is the dreaded kleptomania in action. You can see what it does. You completely lose control of interacting with the curio or the container, and the hero just keeps whatever is in there for him or herself. So, as you can imagine, it's very detrimental, especially early on when you really need gold and heirlooms, etc.
Glittering gold, trinkets and baubles, paid for in blood.
All right, and there's a nice use of some holy water on the decorative urn. Again, you don't have to loot it at all. You don't have to use holy water, but a lot of times certain curios will have a negative effect if you don't use the right supply item in interacting with them.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it. Precision and power. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
Okay, so at this point, our poor leper has been massively stress-nuked. He's on the verge of having to make a virtue check. But notice here, his self-heal, see that? It's only 5, but it has a small stress-healing component to it. And I had forgotten about that. And, of course, it's not to say that, oh, we have a stress healer now. We don't. He can't use it on anybody else. It's a self-heal. But in the midst of all this really bad stress damage, it's kind of a lifesaver to have that. Now, unfortunately here, this is just bad luck. He got pushed into the 3rd slot, and he can't use his self-heal in that position, so he has to go another round without being able to heal any stress, but those are the breaks.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms. Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive. Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. A fortune, waiting to be spent.
All right, and a nice use of a key on the heirloom chest there. Again, if you don't have the key there, you might not get those bonus heirlooms, so it's nice to have. Okay, and a lucky dodge there from our jester on that trap. Without scouting, we had no idea it was there, but we got lucky and dodged the damage. Okay, so this was a pretty lucky pool at this point, considering our situation, namely the massive stress damage to our leper. And the reason being is that the spiders are kind of easy. I mean, they can be dangerous, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to deal any stress damage to you. And they're going to bleed because they're beasts. So basically what I'm going to do is try to make this fight last as long as possible, drag it out, and use every round on the leper to cast a self-heal and get that stress healing component out of it to try to bring that stress level down.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
And I have no idea how these spiders are missing our jester this much. I mean, I know he has a little bit of a buff to his dodge because of his lucky dice trinket, but I don't know, maybe it was just really lucky RNG, but he completely just dodge tank, like, you know, a ton of attacks there and helped prolong this fight, which is what we needed.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own. Press this advantage. Give them no quarter.
Alright, so a nice defensive buff there from that suit of armor for our leper. It increases his dodge and protection. And all in all, that fight went really well. We got lucky with all the dodges on our jester, but we were able to successfully stall and recover quite a bit of stress damage on our leper. Now, as for doing this quest and why are we here and all that, there isn't a boss here or anything like that. This is just the start of the game, so why am I showing it to you? Well, like many games, these early levels are really the most challenging levels. The heroes aren't leveled up. They don't have all the abilities they need. They don't have upgraded armor and weapons. They don't have trinkets. I mean, only one of the 4 people in this party have trinkets at all, right? So this is kind of the very fun, very challenging part of the game. And also, I just wanted to introduce you to the game kind of gradually in these first few episodes and show you, you know, this is what this building is for, this is how you choose your quest, this is how you put a party together. And then eventually, once we're kind of through all that, I'll speed it up, probably skip several weeks at a time, and then only show you, you know, the dungeon where we go kill a boss or where we advance some kind of storyline or something like this. But Anyway, just wanted to give you a quick heads up as to why we're here and what we're doing.
The light, the promise of safety.
Alright, so a lucky scouting check there. We can see it's pretty much clear the rest of the way. And remember, all we have to do for this specific quest is explore 90% of rooms. You don't actually have to do any fights or kill all the monsters. So if you can scout them out and avoid them and get through the quest, you're better off for it. Alright, so unlucky roll there for our jester. That could have been a positive quirk by clicking on the bookshelf. Instead, he took some stress damage, but no big deal.
The shifted corridors and sloped walls of our ancestry are beginning to feel familiar.
Alright, so another successful scouting quest into the ruins. A decent haul on the heirlooms and whatnot. Not too much damage to the party. As for quirks, Flagellant, no big deal on the Leper, Mules, and then Roque. Clutch Hitter, that's kind of meh. Not bad, but not great. Cardinal, the Vestal. Meditator's really not that great. And Shocker, reduced stun resistance, is pretty bad on a healer. So we'll probably want to get rid of that sooner than later. But yeah, week 2 down, Devatron, Darkest Dungeon. We'll see you next episode for week 3.